So I've been asking everyone, and Allison said that you kind of help facilitate this. I love how music plays a part in this movie, especially with characters either going back into their own memories or kind of connecting with a new love. For how was it? Because she said you created playlists and kind of told everyone what the vibe was. What were those songs, or like how did you kind of come up with what songs would lead a movie like Regretting You?
So I worked at a record store for many years before I made movies. And music has always been a really large part of my life, like such a big part of my life that like when I was a kid, if I loved a song, I didn't listen to it once, I listened to it 500 times, you know? So much that you could just play it in your head anytime you wanted. And music has always been such a huge part of, it's a really important, if not one of the most important elements of the movies that I've made, where before I even know if I'm going to write a movie or agree to make a movie, I make a soundtrack first. And it's like, what I want to do is convince myself that there is a soundtrack there and a tonal world this movie can exist in musically. If I can't make a soundtrack, I don't make the movie. So it's like, I've got to know that I've aligned enough songs that they create like a magical string of, that will get you where you need to go and are going to give you, I don't know, that's my process. Is I always start with music. So, I had The Killers, I had Stereophonics, I had Tommy Prine over the montage, I had, a number of other songs in it that I kind of layered into the script once I started working on the script. And I would send that obviously to the actors, I would send it to the studio or my producers so that everybody would know the movie that they were making and that we could all be tonally in the same movie. Because it's like, it's so much easier to communicate with somebody by giving them a song than it is to have a long conversation about their character's backstory or their motivation. It's like, if everybody can just be in the same song, I feel like that's almost the easiest way to get what you want, tonally, if that makes any sense. So anyway, music is a hugely important part of my process, and I've worked forever with the same music supervisor, a woman named Susan Kent, and so I'll bring her all the songs I want in the movie, and then over the course of that, 4 or 5 of the songs that I wrote and baked into it will lay in nicely, and then some other stuff she'll bring me, and she knows my taste very well, and we've worked together a long time, and I've had also the same composer since my first movie who's in the band Bright Eyes. So Bright Eyes has been involved in kind of every movie that I've made, and Connor always gives me a song or whatever. This one they gave me Chesapeake that him and Phoebe Bridgers had done. So yeah, I don't know, it's really important. I could talk about music all day, so you got to stop me.
No, it's funny because I literally like whenever I write scenes, I literally write it with a soundtrack in my mind. So
Yeah.
like, I understand completely how music plays into things.
I
But
remember I remember reading that George Lucas, when he wrote American Graffiti, he would write the song that was playing on the radio, because they're in cars the whole movie,
yeah,
at the top of every script page. And like one of my very favorite filmmakers is Cameron Crowe. So it's like his
yeah,
use of music was hugely inspirational in these kind of films that I do.
yeah. Well, and you also get to add a film to the Dead Dad catalog.
Is a Dead Dad
For
catalog?
me, because really relate to Clara because I'm part of the Dead Dad Club, and
Oh,
so. But I always like I make jokes because I'm like, please don't like feel bad. Like I'm like I make these jokes because it's how I cope. And so for me, like seeing a character that's kind of her MO, even when she's going through it, I was like, oh great, like there's more of us. But when there
right.
is those movies where it is, you're gonna have people relate to it on whatever level they are, especially if they've lost a parent.
Yeah.
How is it for you navigating that when you're like, okay, well, people are going into this knowing if they've read the book, but also people might not know, and I have to figure out how to kind of broach the dead parent of it all.
Well, my stepfather of 20 years passed away, and so I'm very lucky that both my mom and my dad are still here, but he was a huge part of my life since I was just about 19 or 20. So that was a catastrophic loss to my family, and so I still can't say that I know what it was like to really lose a parent, but I did lose somebody who meant a lot to me who was in a parental role, but really when I was an adult. Um, I'm sort of drawn to stories where teenagers at that moment where they realize that their parents are human and fallible, and in this case it just happened to be that it's the dad's death that brings out all these secrets. But my first movie deals with very similar uh, thematic material about teenagers who find out a lot more about their parents' divorce and history than they ever really probably wanted to know. So I keep coming back to stuff like this, and it's like I don't know why. I guess I'd need a therapist to tell me why. So young love, teenage romances, relationships between parents and their children. I've done this several times, and I don't know why.
You're working through some stuff
I'm
in
working
these
through
movies.
whatever I'm working through.
Well, I can't wait for everyone to get to see your take on Regretting You. And so thank you so much for talking with me
Oh, of
today.
course. Thank you so much for taking the time to watch the movie.
Of course. Have a great
Yeah,
one.
thank you.
Bye. You join a long line of famous dead dads in cinema now.
That's an opener. I like that.
Well, as I said to McKenna, I have a bracelet that says Dead Dad Club because I'm like, my dad's dead. I'm like, listen, we gotta just get over it. And I like that this movie kind of gives that grace to the people who like either went through it or are going through it or whatever it may be. But how does it feel for you to now be part of a legacy of like people are gonna label this the Dead Dad
DDC,
movie?
the DDC.
Yeah.
Man, a lot to live up to there. Yeah, like you said, long line of them.
A long line of dead dads
Yeah.
in cinema. But I also an actual serious question. I've been asking everybody. I love how music plays a part in this movie
Yeah.
because you'll have characters who are like thinking back to the past and they hear a song or they're connecting over music in a new relationship. For you, does music play a part in like your process as an actor? And if so, what songs were you kind of listening to get into the mindset for Regretting You?
It can. The answer is it can, depending on the role. This one, not so much. But I typically like to, if the character, there's a certain music like can spur different emotions, and so if you have to, go there in a movie, or you think your character listens to a certain type of music, then he would. I don't know what I was listening to during this time. That's a good question. I was probably listening to like it's something that's not very much like my character, like house music, but probably a lot of good house
He's just hanging.
in the basement, just getting it. Yeah.
Well, a lot like obviously we get to see your character alive and well at one point, but he also gets to exist in flashbacks a lot. When you're doing flashback work as it is,
Yeah.
how do you kind of view it? Is it just like fun because you're like, well, this is what this guy was like then because like or do you approach it as like, this is like that specific time period and this is how they were at that time period and not kind of like,
Yeah, a little bit. I think, a little bit, and just we knew I was playing the, essentially like a 15, 20-year younger version of myself. Just being a little bit more jovial, I think, just in general, is just being a little more youthful. As you, get older, you're probably a little less like that. So you just try to like tap into that, what it was like to be back in high school and having fun.
Yeah, and he gets to say some wild things to Dave Franco. For
Yeah.
last question, I would ask, is it fun to get to tease Dave Franco like that in a movie like Regretting You?
It is fun. Yeah. 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 Dave's a good sport. Yeah.
I was just so mean to him in high school. I was like, this is great, actually. So mean to him.
Yeah.
Well, I can't wait for everyone else to get to see Regretting You. And so thank you so much for talking with me today. I really appreciate it.
Yep. Thank you.